Well, hello, welcome again to our reading of the Septuagint, and we're reading the story of Samson in chapter 16. We're up to the last section, starting at verse 22. Kai exototrix tes kephales, autu blastanen kathos exuresato. And the hair of his head, exoto from erchomai, it began, blastane, this is to grow, to sprout, literally is the word used of plants, began to sprout. Kathos exuresato. Funny use of kathos here. Kathos normally means according as or just as, but probably as here as soon as he shaved it. So it's middle here from this verb of shaving. And hoi akontes turn allophulon sun ekthes anthusai thus theasma mega to dagon theo auton kai euphrantheni kai apen edoken hotheos en keri hemon to Samson ton ekthron hemon. And the leaders or the rulers of the Philistines had gathered together, this is aorist passive from sunago, to sacrifice a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god. Not a great deal is known about this god. He's sometimes identified with a god of agriculture. There are carvings of him showing him connected with a fish, and in fact some scholars have connected the name Dagon with the Hebrew name Dag, meaning a fish. So he may have been some kind of sea god, some fish god. Anyway, so to sacrifice a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and Euphrantheni, and to celebrate, to make themselves happy. It's connected with Phrain and you, so to have a festival or to celebrate. Kai apan, and they said, the God has given Samson, our enemy, in our hands. Classical Greek would have had ace here, but they just use n. So into our hands, our enemy. Kai edan auton holaos kai humnesan ton theon auton hoti paradoken hotheos hemon ton ekthron hemon en tekori hemon ton eremunta ten gain hemon kai hos eplethenon tus traumatias hemon. And the subject here is laos. Now it's very odd. Laos is singular and the verb here is plural, so it's by sense really. The people, which is a plural sense, but grammatically singular, and they're using a plural noun here. So the people saw him, and they hymned, they sang a hymn to their God, and the hoti here is inverted commas. Our God has given our enemy into our hands. Interesting use of get hamon 3 times. So our God has given our enemy into our hands. The one who ere munta, from ere mo'o, you get a ramos, a desert. Here, this is the one who was laying waste to our land. We get another hamon, and another hamon here. So the one who was laying waste to our land, and who literally was multiplying our tramatias. Now this is a first declension masculine noun. It's one of the not terribly common first declension masculine alpha pure nouns, so it's traumatias in the nominative. This is the accusative plural here, but the same form as in the nominative. It's like Neanias, a young man. That's the only example of one of these in New Testament Greek. Here we get traumatias, first declension, alpha pure, masculine noun. So he was increasing the number of our wounded. Kai hoti agathumthe hekadia auton, and their heart was gladdened. It's normally, it became merry. It's a passive form here. It's from agathuno, to rejoice greatly or be very happy, become merry. It's a Septuagint word. You'll see it commonly there in the Septuagint, but it's not the classical usage here, as far as I can see. So but when their heart was made merry, kai apen kalesiti ton Samson ek oikofulakes, kai paixato enopion hemon, kai ekalesen ton Samson apo oiku demoteriu, kai epias don enopion auton, kai erapis don auton, kai estes an auton, anameson ton kionon. So they said, imperative here, call, or perhaps summon, Samson from the house of the prison. Again, we have variation. Up here we had desmoterion. Here we get phulake for the word for prison. No real distinction between them. And our paixato is an imperative. It's from paisdo, and it means to entertain. Is often one of the translations of this. It can also mean sort of dance and sing. It's not clear exactly what sort of entertainment poor old Samson was supposed to provide for them. He was blind, so perhaps seeing him falling about and unable to see where he was may have given them some pleasure. So let him, and it's an imperative here, let him entertain before us. And they invited Simon from the house of the desmoterion. Again, they go back to we get variation again of from the house of the prison, and he made entertainment before them. We get the verb paisdo here. Kai erapisdon auton, and they were striking him. A rapis is a stick, and so they were hitting him with a stick. They were striking him. Interestingly, this is not in the Masoretic text that we have now. Perhaps it was in the version they had, but this is not in our Masoretic text. And they caused him to stand. They placed him between the pillars. This is kion is the word. This is the genitive plural from kion, a pillar. So between the pillars, kai apen Samson prostondianion ton kratun taten kera autu, and Samson said to the young man, the one who was holding from kratio his hand, because he's blind, of course, aphes me kai heps so pselapheso tus kionas. If hois hoikos steke ebautus, kai episterik thesamai ebautus. Let me alone. So this is the imperative from aphiemi, release me, and I will touch. This is a verb which continues on into the New Testament. It's the classical form is psao, to touch. This is a sort of lengthened form of this. And I'm not sure the etymology has been completely explained, but it is a common biblical word. So I will touch the kionas, the pillars, on which the house stands, steke, that later form of histemi, that regularized form. So this is from steko. And because this is translated from the Hebrew, the Hebrew here would just have a relative pronoun, asher, and it needs to be pinned down by something, and so they've got to put ebautus here, which the Greek doesn't require, but the Hebrew does, and so you can't really translate the ebautus, it's just subsumed here in the F voice. It's on which, so it's on them on which the house stands. So on which the house stands. Kai episterikthesomai. This is a future passive from episterizdo. So I will support myself. Ep autus upon them, that is these pillars. Kai ha oikos pleres ton andron kai ten gunaikon, kai eke pantes hoi akontes ton elaphulon. And the house was full of men and women, and all the rulers of the Philistines. Kai epitodoma hos heptakosioandres kai gunaikes hoi theoruntis en pai niai Samson. And literally on the house, so perhaps in the house. Now hos with a number means approximately, so there were approximately heptakosioi, so 700 men and women, those looking on in the Paigniais. These are the performances or entertainments. It's connected with that Pies Day we had before, with the entertainments of Samson. There's no article here in the Greek because once again it's mirroring what's happening in the Hebrew, and it's in the construct state, which doesn't use the article. But we'd have to say with the performances or entertainments of Samson. Kai Klaus sen Samson pros kurion kai pen adoniai kurie menes theti de munun kai en iskuson me eti to hapax tuto the kai ant apodoso and apodosin mian peri ton duo ophthalmon mutois alophulois. And Samson wept or cried out, perhaps, to Yahweh and said, Adonai Yahweh, so Lord Yahweh, Menestheti, remember then now, me now. So remember me now. And eniskuson, imperative, from eniskuo, put strength into me. So strengthen me, eti to hapax tuto. Same expression we had before, this one last time. Sthe is an evocative, of course, from theos. So one last time, O Lord. And apodoso, I will give in requital. So I will give as a repayment. One repayment, so we get the verb and the abstract noun, the ant apodosis. So I will repay one repayment or one requital regarding my 2 eyes for the Philistines. So I will give to the Philistines one act of repayment in return for my 2 eyes, is the sense of it here. Kai peri elaben Samson tus duokionas tu oiku ephois ho oikos hei steke kai episterikthei ebautus kai ekratasen hena te dexia autu kai hena te aristera autu. And Samson, now perilambano is to put your hands around, so he gripped hold of, we might say, the 2 pillars of the house on which the house was standing or stood. And here, up earlier we had stake, we had this other version, now we're getting the classical histemi verb. So on which the house stands, kai episterikthei ep autus, and now episterikthei ep autus. Oh, I see. And he applied his strength to them, I think is what it is. So he put all his strength onto them. kai ekratesen, and he took hold of, normally takes a genitive, he took hold of one with his right hand and one with his left hand. Dexios is often used for the right hand of something, and aristera, which literally means the best, is the left of something. You call the left, of course, is always negative, so you give it a positive name. It's apotropaic, to ward off any evil by calling something which is evil good. And the dexia, it's connected with decamai, to receive, because you right-handed people will receive things into their right hand, and so hence you get dexia for right hand, and they use aristera, the best one, as an apotropaic term for that which is the worst, i.e. your left hand. Kai apen Samson, and Samson said, apothaneto psuke mu meta apophulon. Kai ebastaxen en iskui, kai episen ho oikos epitus akontas, kai epipantaton laon ton in auto. Kai esan hoi tethnekotes hus athanatos sen Samson, enter thanato autu, pleus e hus ethanatos en texoe autu. And Samson said, let my soul die with the Philistines. Now, funny use of bastazdo here. Bastazdo, and it's funny spelling of the aorist as well. Bastazdo is to carry. The normal aorist has a sigma here in Attic Greek. The Hebrew has the sense of that he put his arms around the columns and then moved forward, carrying the columns with him, which is probably why they chose this verb bastazdo, but it really has the sense that he pushed forward. He lifted them up. En iskui, with his strength, using his strength, that instrumental use of en. And the house fell, this is from Pipto, aorist epeson, it fell upon the rulers and upon all the people, all the host, the one in it, all the people that were in it. And the ones having died, whom Samson put to death by means of his death, or perhaps along with his death, they were players more than those whom he had put to death in his life. So more people were killed in this act than he'd actually killed during his life. Kai katabasen hoiadel foiautu, kai oikos tu patros autu, kai elabon auton, kai anabasan, kai ethapsan auton, anameson Sarah, kai anameson estaol, en totefo manoi tu patros autu, kai autos ekrinen ton Israel, e kosi ete. And his brothers, and literally the house of his father, they came down and they took him, that is his body, and they went up and they buried him. This is from Thapto. They buried him anameson, we get anameson, between Sarah and between Eshtaol, in the tomb of Manoah his father. And he ruled, probably is an aorist here from Crino, he ruled Israel for 20 years. And that is the end of the section on the story of Samson.